Blessed be everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Fae. It's a video that is long overdue. I've had requests to do a video on the Fae, so here it is finally. But before we dive into the topic, I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. I'm the author of Crafting Your Wiccan Path. If you want to know more about Wicca, witchcraft, tarot, shadow work, magic, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any videos. If you want to know where to start your witchcraft practice, but you're just a bit lost because there's so much to know and you're trying to put all the pieces together, but you feel like you're just not getting anywhere because you're going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, take a look at my free video. It's called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice. There is a link in the description field below this video, and that will help you get an idea of how you can just pace yourself. You don't have to know everything at once. Just start with something, then go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Today we're talking about the Fae. And the Fae have different names in different places and different cultures. Very similar spirits you will find in various different places around the world. They just have different names. So the names that I'm referring are the more common Western names, particularly in Northern Europe and in the Celtic regions. But there's also different names in different parts of the world for very, very similar spirits. They're often considered nature spirits. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's all kind of nature spirits. Everything is a part of nature, really. But in that realm, they're very connected to nature and aspects of nature. You can get Fae that are very connected to like trees and different plants, very connected to the earth, looking after gardens and various different places or types of places in nature can have different spirits there. Looking after it and being a part of it. So the first ones I wanted to talk about are actually the household spirits, which are often called brownies. And these spirits can be helpful most of the time. Sometimes they can be a little mischievous if you're not showing respect for them or if you're asking too much of them. A lot of people will enlist the help of brownies to help keep their home tidy and organized. They've been known to do that, and I've found that they have helped me do that too. I've also found that the brownies can sometimes borrow things too, but they always give them back when you ask for them. So if anything's gone missing, just ask the brownies to bring it back or to show it to you, and they will. Whenever I misplace something or I can't remember where I put something, I will ask the brownies and local house spirits to help me look or help me find it, and inevitably they do. So they're very, very helpful. One of the ways that you can work with them and get, I guess, friendly with them and have a good relationship with them is to leave them offerings. And the common offering is milk and honey. So just leave some milk and honey out in the evening, and you may be surprised at some of the things that are a little bit more tidy or organized the next day when you get up. I like to work with the house spirits, including the brownies, to look after my home when I'm away, to pretty much keep it safe from the elements, and also to keep, well, the spirits in general, the local spirits in general, to keep my home and that area safe from the elements, from humans, and anything that would cause it harm. The next one I wanted to talk about are the wil-o-the-wisps. Now they have different names again in different places around the world. In Australia they seem very, very similar to the min lights that we sometimes see if you're out in the bush or the wilderness of Australia. They are the night lights. So they're these lights that just sort of come out of nowhere, and if you were to follow those lights, you never catch up with them. They never really seem to have there's always a distance between you and the lights. You never catch up with them. And many people have gotten themselves lost in the Australian bush and probably all over the world following these lights of the wil-o-the-wisps or the min. And I have not ever seen any myself. I probably haven't been out in the bush long enough, or really out there where it really is quite isolated. But my mother has seen them, because she grew up in the country and in the outback. So she has seen them. And she said, they're like, you can't, if you try to follow them, you can't follow them. And it's really not a good idea to follow them because they lead people astray. You can easily get lost. And there's many stories about them leading people astray in the marshes, people getting lost in the marshes, people getting lost in the bogs, even sailors getting lost at sea, or their ships being destroyed because they've been following the lights and they've ended up on rocky terrain, and so they've ended up sinking their ships. So the will-o'-the-wisps aren't necessarily, I guess, helpful. They're more something that we see. We really don't know how to work with them, but they do seem to lead people astray. There is legend that they guide lost souls, and that if you can get on their good side, perhaps through offerings, you may be able to enlist their help if you are already lost and you need to find your way out of the forest. But I have not necessarily experienced that, but some people have. The next type of Fae is the sidhe, which is really an Irish word for the Fae, but they're a particular type of Fae that we often associate with the fairies, which is more the mundane term. And you'll find that if you go anywhere where there's like fairy rings, so that's like a mushroom ring, magical mounds and hillsides, you can encounter them in those spaces. Sometimes you can sort of feel like, if you meditate a lot in those spaces, you may feel like you're being approached by them, that you're entering into a realm, another realm. When you're in meditation in these environments, it's like you're being invited into their realm if you're being respectful while you're there meditating. Some people see them all of the time and may commune with them all of the time. Another group of Fae are, of course, the leprechauns, which again are Celtic or Irish. The leprechauns are associated with luck and money. And while you can work with them for money spells, you do have to approach them the right way as well, because they can be tricksters and sometimes lead you up the garden path if you're not really aware of what it is that you're asking and why you're asking. They can be quite elusive as well, so it may not be easy to find one. And there's been legends where leprechauns have been caught, and as part of their bartering to be set free, they will offer somebody great wealth and riches, and then end up doing some sort of trick so that that person either doesn't end up with the riches, or somehow those riches end up causing them problems in the end. But all of these Fae you can work with if you approach it in the right way. And the last one I wanted to talk about was the gnomes. And although most things you'll read about on gnomes say that, gnomes are very much about helping out in the garden and looking after those sort of natural places, I've certainly felt their presence in bushland and particularly parkland. So this is land that is being cleared to some extent, but there's still some native foliage there, and it's pretty much a park that's been created for people. And you can sometimes see or feel the gnomes sort of poking their heads out behind trees and just watching people. But the minute you kind of notice them, they kind of hide. I've also, and they are usually considered benign spirits that can be very, very helpful if you are growing a garden and you are trying to work with the land and make a sanctuary for plants and animals, and of course the Fae at the same time. My experience though with gnomes is that sometimes they can be a little mischievous. There may be some types that, and this might be more a house gnome that I'm talking about, but they can be attracted sometimes to negative energy and they can feed off it. And I don't know what type of gnome that is. I just know that I have experienced one of those. They looked like a gnome. Maybe they weren't a gnome. I'm not sure what sort of spirit they were. They just looked like a gnome. And they were feeding off the negative energy that was going on inside the house at the time. They had accidentally been invoked by an earth pentagram and invoking the earth element, and they had to be told to go away. But they were a bit mischievous, that's all. But generally speaking, gnomes are not supposed to be like that. So I don't know about that. I've only ever seen them in country places. I've felt them to be quite shy in those places. And when I had a direct encounter, this particular creature was mischievous, not nasty. I wouldn't say they were, you know, anything treacherous or malefic. They're just mischievous, that's all. Just up to mischief, causing a little bit of mischief around the place and creating a little bit of trouble for people. Just inconvenient things, not bad things, but they did look like a gnome. There are other creatures that can be part of a home. There's boggles, and boggles can be mischievous house spirits that do create little accidents sometimes for people and can upset things a little bit as well. Often, if you are somebody that does practice a lot of magic, you can attract some of these fae. So it is good to know how to protect yourself from these beings at the same time. So that's the ones who are quite mischievous. And there's the general psychic protection that you would use to protect yourself is the sort of protection that you would use. Iron can be a good ward off for some of the fae. They don't like iron. It is used as a shield against them, so it's one of the reasons they don't particularly like it. And there's some mostly just energetic magic to keep them at bay. You may also find that gemstones and crystals have spirits associated with them too that you could also consider to be earth spirits or fae. And you may see them or sense them when you're working with gemstones and crystals. Now, if you do want to approach any of the fae, definitely do your research first. Find out from various different sources, from people that have worked with them particularly. There are books out there written by people who specialize in the fae. There are, you know, websites with blogs of people who specialize. So go do your research first. It's very important that when you're approaching any type of being, whether they're a human being or a spirit being, that you approach them with respect and really be respectful. You're not there to use them. You're there to maybe ask to get to know them because you want to know more about them, or you may want them to help you in your spell work, in which case you need to know how to create sacred space, sacred protective space, to know what offerings to give them. So brownies, for example, milk and honey. Some fae like crystals and shiny things, so if you've got a collection of small tumbled stones, you can often use them in your magic or leave them out in your garden for the fae. Often if you do leave crystals out in the garden, they can sometimes disappear because they like them and sometimes they will take them. Or if they really like being in your garden and they understand that they're part of the garden and they're there to, you know, lift the vibe of the garden, they will leave them there and just enjoy your garden with the crystals in them. So little tokens, little offerings like that can be. So food, crystals, shiny things, jewelry, for example, is another thing that you can offer some of the fae as well. Tobacco, you can offer leprechauns, for example. Do your research and find out which goes with which, but usually can't go too wrong with daily offerings of cold tea that you can pour into the ground, or milk and honey. Those sorts of things, if you can offer those every day, so if you go outside and you offer those to the earth every day and just include the earth spirits and give them your thanks and offerings, you can really find that things around your place change, that things seem to work out more for you, that things tend to be safer for you, because when you're giving daily offerings, it's like a daily hello. It's like seeing your neighbour and saying hello to them every day, and that's a way that you can show respect and a way that you can show that you are willing to work with them, and then they will often be willing to work with you too. If you show disrespect for them at all, or if you're coming across as being very selfish or more about wanting to take, but not give anything in return, then just be careful, because they will teach you a lesson about that. They are very good at teaching you about giving and receiving, that when you are wanting someone or something to do something for you, to help you in some way, to teach you in some way, that you have to give something in return for that. You can't just take from people, or take from the Fae particularly. They will teach you a lesson, and it will be a lesson that you won't forget, because they will teach you well. So make sure that you are respectful, that you give as well as you receive, and that you're very cordial to them, to work well with them. If you want to experience the witchcraft path and really feel connected to that path on a daily basis, learning about your own self, learning about your ability to be able to be a magical person, to create the life you want to live, to know that you're an energetic being, to play with energy, to learn how to work with energy. If you want to learn witchcraft with me, do enroll in the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. It is the place where you can use the craft to connect to yourself, connect to your being, to connect to spirit, connect to nature and nature spirits, and really feel like you are a part of something bigger than just the mundane thing that you're kind of told that you are. That there's more to life than just the mundane, everyday trying to survive in a crazy world. The craft can really lift you up, and it can help you soar like an eagle. And when we're in difficult times, like, you know, we pretty much are, particularly this year astrologically, to have the craft there and to know that you are working on being who you truly are, the spirit being you truly are, can really help lift you out of that mundane focus on the material world. So if you do want to join a community of like-minded people, join the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. There's a link in the description field below this video. If you like the video, hit the like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. I am Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. Blessed be.